Hello, and welcome to another episode of Brighton music scene podcast Sounds from the Ziggurat. You're released at random window into the Brighton music scene of the 2000s and more. This edition marks just over 1 whole year since the first one released. I know I have not created as many episodes as I originally intended, for various reasons, but I want you to know that the show is still alive and there's a lot more to come. I remember feeling incredibly satisfied when that first episode aired last year. I submitted it to Audio Boom to distribute at 19:45 and headed off to the Yellow Book Pub to meet my friends. That moment when it popped up on my own phone as a subscription was a lovely antithesis to other things going on in my life at the time, and over the next few months it served as a wonderful form of stress relief. I may play around with the format a little more for this season's episodes, making them more condensed and giving them a bit more structure than before. Hopefully this will give the podcast some consistency going forward. Or it might be terrible and perhaps the random approach I took to the first season was the best thing about it. We'll find out in due course. The list of bands I have to cover in season 2 is already pretty long, but if you have any others you think I should feature on the podcast, please let me know at my Twitter, which is @I'mFineAtsea. Although I don't really use Twitter much, that address has automatic notifications set up for anyone that wants to get in contact. You can also reach me on the Sounds from the Ziggurat Facebook page, or even comments on the YouTube channel. I have gained a couple of reviews on iTunes for the podcast now, which is great, but admittedly this was due to a review swap on Reddit, of which I'm yet to fulfill my side of the bargain. Now, I know at least 6 of you are looking forward to the second half of the Inferior interview, but unfortunately I have bad news. My computer died. It wouldn't boot up, and when I tried the disk utility, it told me that my hard drive was pretty much knackered and that I needed to back it up ASAP. Unfortunately, I did not do this before it failed completely. I was literally moving files from one location to another in order to make room for a backup before it bit the dust. It is possible that I actually did make backups of my files and store them on my NAS drive, but in the chaos, I may have deleted them accidentally too. At the end of the day, I'm a dick, and I've learnt a lesson, which has culminated in lots more debt by purchasing new hard drives on my store credit card. Regarding the Inferior interview, perhaps at the end of the day, I just need to get the lads together and do it all again. Remember, this podcast is primarily for my own self-indulgence anyway. At the end of this episode, there is a conversation with top man Lewis Mckale, a hard-working singer-songwriter who has spread himself between London, Brighton and anywhere else he can get himself a gig over the years, and is currently finishing up a track to put on a split 7-inch with yours truly at some point soon. Lewis and I recently went to watch our buddies in Me play the Garage in London and spent most of the gig up the front, just out of the way of the mosh pit, singing our nuts off. We had a great time and he truly is a good chap to hang out with. Lewis and I discuss a manner of things in our chat, some relevant to the podcast and some with no relevance whatsoever. Listen out for that at the end. On a separate note, I want to give my best to regular podcast listener, avid gamer and awesome drinking buddy, my old friend Kenty, who has jetted off to his new job in Hong Kong to work on virtual reality technology, bringing us closer and closer to the futuristic and incredible world we saw in The Lawnmower Man. On to our first track. You may remember back in season 1 that I spoke at length about the CD compilation This Is Brighton Core, featuring a selection of Brighton rock and metal bands, available exclusively from Bionic on North Street. One of the standout tracks from this collection, and one of the only bands still monitoring their old email address, is Leap of Faith. Inferior had the pleasure of supporting Leap of Faith as part of the Emergenza debacle, of which I'm still gathering the necessary information to write a proper episode all about it. Big thanks to Rory who gave me the go-ahead to play this track, which is called Believe.
burning, oh, he never said. Turning the corner, he sees his angel of destiny, holding the world of answers, all for you and me. He finds a path to heaven, the road to eternity. His angels are beckoning him, oh, his soul is free. Believe me, oh, you never quite see it. Say goodbye to the ashes. Come on, you never, never, never believe. Go round from me, Jesus. Go round you, dear. The closer I get, I feel you. Oh, you never, never, never leave. You'll never leave. The killer awoke before dawn, plotting his evil mind, watching his victims gather, oh, his evil mind. He walks through a lonely alley, revenge comes to seek his wrath. The tables of hatred turning, oh, this is his path. The bullet will travel faster, faster than light, you know. He drops to the floor, they gather, oh, the starry soul. They put him towards the fire. He says things are laughing now. He says not the cry and the horror. Oh, he said, believe me, oh, you never quite see it. Say goodbye to the ashes. Come on, you never, never, never believe. Go round for me, Jesus. Go round to dear. The closer I get, I feel you. Oh, you never, never, never leave. You'll never leave. Believe me, oh, you never quite see it. Say goodbye to the ashes. Come on, you never, never, never believe. Go round for me, Jesus. Go round you, dear. The closer I get, I feel you. Oh, you never, never, never be near. Believe me, you never leave me. Believe me, you never leave me. Believe me, you never leave me. Don't leave me. Just tell me when you believe me, baby.
Before we continue with the next track, I would like to briefly mention a website I've been visiting for years, and I implore anyone who is interested in this period of the Brighton music scene, which I assume is most of you, as I'm sure people are not just listening for the sound of my voice, to visit tomvincent.co.uk. Here you will find a wonderful selection of photos, some specifically from the event Brighton Live 2005, which I'll talk about a little more on a future episode of the podcast, and how Infurion blagged our way into some sort of after party at one of the upstairs bars by the Theatre Royal. There are photos of many of the bands I have discussed and played tracks from in previous episodes, such as Wonky Beak, Soundcore and Turncoat, and plenty more that I've not got round to playing yet, such as Naked Ape, Ghost of 1000 and Make Good Your Escape. It really does capture some of the essence of the time, and I think it's cool that Tom is keeping these photos up for others to see all of these years later. It's also fascinating to see some of the venues that the bands were playing at, some of which are now no more than a bloody co-op. Yes, I'm talking about the Providence. The best thing I enjoy about Tom's site is being able to revisit those odd days where Infurion Ad was supporting a perm. Something we don't really talk about anymore, but all know happened. Like the murder of Jeffrey Epstein. Another band to feature on the Brighton Core CD was Dead Empire. I believe I was introduced to one of their members through the BrightonRock.net forum, where he went under the moniker Tim the Mighty. Although I think we crossed paths a little earlier at one of the Christmas Metal Kettle shows featuring Infurion, Best Left Dead and Liquid Audio. I had a nice email exchange from Tim regarding some of the background of the band. It was on a night out in legendary rock club The Hungry Years where Tim was introduced to a chap called Ed, and was subsequently asked to come and join in on a rehearsal at a studio tucked away down a side street of Kemp Town. Although for the life of us we can't remember the name of the studio. Does anyone have any ideas on what studio it might be? I remember Anzacs on St James's Street, where my friends and I went in to record some music for a school project 20 odd years ago, and it was probably this event that set me on the path of wasting my time recording more nonsense in my bedroom for the next 20 years. Tim had to pick up Dave, the drummer, and it was this experience that taught him just how much of a drum kit one could squeeze into their humble Ford Escort. Tim doesn't specify what model of Escort this was, but I like to think of it as a souped up RS Turbo or XR3i, with a nifty spoiler and racing stripe. After an apathetic confirmation between members, Tim was in the band. Ed and John, the guitarists, had previously been in a band called Death Wish and toured with Motorhead, whilst Tim was more of a bedroom guitarist who, in his own words, liked to whittle along to 80s hair metal. Amusingly, John had quipped that Tim did alright, considering his record collection. The first gig Tim remembers is one upstairs at the Hobgoblin, which the band might as well have had a residency at, playing there so many times over the course of the band's life. Apparently on this first outing there was no stage, no tickets, and he has no idea where the PA came from. Luckily a round of applause during soundcheck served as a warm and welcome surprise. Another great venue the band played, which Tim also can't remember the name of, was down the seafront and had occasional goth nights. Any ideas to which club this might be, anyone? It had a big room, big stage and a good sound system. Tim describes it like playing on a cruise ship with its big windows looking out towards the seafront. Sounds like the Concorde 2 to me, but part of me thinks it could have been the Zap Club, a belief in which I'm basing around a doomed Halloween outing, which was meant to start and end at the Gloucester, while my friends and I were denied access for some reason. Probably someone had drunk too much. Thus a random walk ensued and led us to the beach and into a dingy fetish night instead. For those in the know, this is where the legendary Nipsey was born. One particular gig that had stood out for Tim was at a venue in Cambridge called the Boathouse. They had been informed by a friend that it was one of the worst venues they were ever likely to play. So with the fuck it attitude in hand, Tim equipped his wireless, jumped off stage and mingled with the crowd. I asked him whether he dealt with many promoters in his time. He had the naive perspective that a lot of bands take when they are starting out, that all they have to do is play and they'll be discovered and become rich and famous at some point soon. Obviously without any understanding of the music industry and how things actually work within its machine, this was unlikely to happen. Also not taking on board that management and promotion are a large part of being in a band that needs proper attention too. Dead Empire's songs predominantly came from jamming. One of the members would come in with an idea and the jamming would eventually come together as a song, with dark lyrical themes resting on top. Although no one seemed to notice, sometimes Ed just shouted random syllables at gigs before final lyrics had been committed to paper. The band split up due to personality conflicts, which is odd because I can safely say that I've never had any sort of conflict in a band situation, and I'm still in touch with 36% of all the people I've ever been in bands with. John's personality was driven and Dave's was a little more laid back, which if you have been in bands yourself, you know can only work for so long on an underground level. Ed did put the band back together with a new guitarist called Rich and drummer called Paul, with Tim taking on backing vocals to Ed's main vocal. Hyperspace to today, and Tim now lives in Edinburgh after finding a career as a software engineering consultant. In his spare time, he teaches martial arts and occasionally plays guitar. Amusingly, he points out that after watching the Motley Crue documentary The Dirt, he is glad to have a healthy lifestyle and a steady job these days. This is Dead Empire with The Same.
Only bold affection, now it's not in life. I'll tell you, I don't care you need, I don't care you want, you know what you're gonna get at this. And you think you are, do you think I am? Cause you didn't know what you know. I'm right over here with your war of attrition, with your blood demonstration and a brain cause. Right over here with this continuation and an irritation that is never yours. I'm telling you, I don't care what you need, I don't care what you want, I know what you're gonna get said. Said you think you are. Thing I am, you know it isn't over yet, no. Cause it's not the same. Cause it's not the same. Cause it's not the same. Same. Out the here with it penetrating on your perpetrating on theory and crime. Out here with a rhythm of life, with the end of the life, you doesn't ring any time. Sorry, you, I don't care what you want, I don't care what you need, you know what you're gonna get at this. You think you are, you think I am, you know it isn't over yet. Cause it's not the same. Cause it's not the same. Cause it's not the same. Same. Now you see through my eyes what it's like on my side. There's a sickness in here, but this may not be the same. The same. Cause it's not the same. Cause it's not the same. Same.
Lastly, it is with great sadness that I must mention legendary guitarist, artist and all-round lovely guy Dan Woods of the Fish Brothers passed away at the beginning of the year after a long illness. He also worked alongside Captain Sensible in Captain Sensible's Family Butcher and later became a member of Attila the Stockbroker's Barnstormer. I knew Dan through college, which was pre-BIM if you can imagine such a time, and he and other members of Barnstormer were brought in to give music lessons on our chosen instruments. Dan was pivotal to me at this time, helping a young, baggy-jumpered and insecure Mike make the jump from knowing what notes were in a scale to actually improvising a solo. Suddenly everything made sense. After this lesson, I went up to Inferior and Si's house for a jam in his makeshift bedroom studio and instantly put into practice the things Dan had taught me that day. Aside from at gigs, I only bumped into Dan a couple of times since college, but he was always a gent, making time at the gig to have a quick chat and also to genuinely ask what I was up to as well. Rest in peace, mate. This song is a Fish Brothers classic, 24-Hour Drinking from the Follow Through album.
The country, I'm well, a pound of sinking. It can't be back, I'm gonna that's the way that I've been thinking. It's 24 hours, 24-hour drinking, hey. It's
I hope to feature more from the Fish Brothers in a future episode, maybe even a roundtable in a pub, as I hear they like a pint or two. Find out where they are gigging through their Facebook page and be sure to check them out. I have had many a drunken mosh to their humorous and lively shows over the years, and they are always entertaining, backed up by thoughtful and well-written songs. Before we go into my chat with Lewis Mckale, I just wanted to thank you for the support and for listening to this episode of the podcast. There will hopefully not be such a gap between this and the next one, which may or may not feature a chat with singer-songwriter, guitarist of In Me and one of my best friends, Gaz Marlowe. Also, we have a special gig report from Inferior Ad to look forward to. I interviewed him after we went on a bit of a gig crawl around Western Road a few weeks ago, and he had some incredible insights into his experience of the evening, such as... It's going to be special. This brings us to a conversation I had with singer-songwriter Lewis Mckale on a warm but breezy afternoon down the level. During this 4-hour chat, we discussed gigs, the internet, teletext, social media, and plenty more nonsense, as well as politely bigging each other's music up whenever we got the chance. I whittled the conversation down to about an hour's worth of chat snippets for you hardcore types that are sticking around to listen. I must warn you that I'm still finding my feet with regards to the interview process. I prefer a relaxed chat over a specific question and answer situation. However, when combined with a few ales, this can mean a lot of digression. The amusing thing about doing this in the park was the different sorts of interruptions we encountered, although not all featured, I'm afraid. From hardcore vegan types to standoffs between local factions of professional drink and drug enthusiasts. Enjoy, and thanks for listening.
Did you get that email from Rich?
Yeah.
About song buttons. So so he's not going to do it anymore as of like January or December.
January, yeah.
Shit, man. So he's given up with the music thing altogether. Like that's it.
I don't blame him.
It sounds like, I don't know, fucking stressful. Like mad. I mean, overhead wires had been going for years, but it sounded like it was just like fucking like, oh god, you know, why am I still doing this? I don't know.
Yeah, it definitely seems to have gone past the point of being enjoyable for him anyway.
But I remember even like when Overhead Wires went under and he went, I'm not going to do royalties anymore, he went to do Swear Down Records.
Yeah.
But then after that he brought the royalties thing back and then did Song Buttons. But it seems like he's tried different things and it's just not worked out, and it's so shit because I love Rich. You know, he's a great guy to work for as well, so
totally agree. Yeah,
it sucks, man, you know.
Sucks, but I think it's good that he's tried different things, and if he's now come to the conclusion that like just to move away from it, then that's fair enough.
Is it just like the money, or is it just like the stress? I mean,
I think it's a bit of everything. I think we spoke about this quite a bit actually, like the amount of effort you have to put into just to not even get any money, not to get any recognition, just to make it work. You know, even all that effort that you have to put into like social media just to keep on top of things.
Yeah.
All those other things, all the networking, just to maintain a presence, and all that before you've got any recognition, before you've got any money coming in, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think there's just too much maybe to it without any reward. And if you're doing it just for a laugh, great. But I guess if you're doing it for a business and you're competing against all these millions of people, and some of them could be shit, some of them could be good, doesn't matter, there's millions of people, and some of them you've got that whole, you know, it's who you know type thing, isn't it, as well? So people are going to get a leg up just because of who they know. They might not deserve it, but they're all people you're in competition with, and I think it's just one of those things that you just feel like
competition's fierce in Brighton.
Yeah, totally.
It is.
I think the song buttons thing is really good. You know, that's a really good setup.
I didn't apply for any of the songs to be commissioned. You know, he did that thing, didn't he?
Yeah.
I missed out on all that, but I thought, shit, I should have got on it. But I guess that must have been stressful for him as well, because, you know, you're getting these artists to sign the songs over, but then it's a case of, I guess, Rich trying to do the promotion as well as writing to people, and I'd hate to do what he's doing, because I, you know, from my own personal experience of writing to record labels, it's so fucking frustrating, because actually not even just record labels, but writing to radio stations to promote your material, writing to reviewers. Like when I released that Black and White EP last year, I wrote to like I wrote every day to like hundreds of fucking people, and I only had one review in the end. One review out of all the people I'd written to. I was like, not one person's got back to me. And I think it's just a case of, am I doing the email wrong? Am I doing this wrong? I think it's just, like you say, competition's fierce, so they must get hundreds of emails a day from people just asking, can you review my record? Or so it's just something that I guess with Rich, he must have grown thicker skin in what he does, because it's like just fucking ignored all the time, like God.
That's what I admire about you though, like you're gigging everywhere, you're persevering to nowhere, and it's brilliant.
It's had its ups and downs. I mean, I just got to a point where I just thought, it's all fun, isn't it? We do it because we love it, and there's nice people in it, even though there are some dicks, but there are. God. But I've met you, and I've met some, actually I've sided with the good people, and I genuinely mean that. I think you know what, I've not got in with this, I've not tried my hardest to get in with the it crowd or whatever, it's just like, this doesn't interest me. I like meeting genuine people that like making music, and that's what I admire about you as well, is that you're very prolific in your songwriting, and I think you just make music that you enjoy, and I think that's what it's all about. Don't just I don't like it when songwriters make music because they feel like, I've got to get signed, so I've got to appeal to, what sells, this sells. So I've got this kind of formulaic thing that people try to go for, and I think, just make music that you enjoy. Like, think about, what would I like to hear on the radio? Yeah.
Oh, totally, yeah. I think that's one of the good and bad things about the technology side of it as well. It's nice that anyone can make music now.
Yeah.
But then, here's an iPad with Apple Loops, and suddenly another billion songs have been created, making the waters even muddier.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's kind of why I got to the point. I've not given up, but again, you just choose your own path. You just write, record, do your gigs.
Take as much time as you need. I mean, God, there are people, you're very prolific, but don't ever feel like, I've got to release an album every year or twice a year or something. It's just like, I've gone through some pretty bad, harsh fucking writer's block, and it's the worst. But I think sometimes it's just a case of you've got to get away from something and then come back to it in order to remember why you did it again. So
definitely,
yeah. I mean, if you look at the sort of beginning of my discography, I've had 2-year gaps in between some places, and it's just if it doesn't come to you, it doesn't come to you. That's it. It's just the worst,
It's quite nice to be able to use the word, if I can pronounce it, discography, yeah. I quite like that. That's another thing that kind of kept me going at one point, because I'd look at my Bandcamp page and see all the different things I've done over the years, the good stuff, the not as good stuff. I'm proud of that. That's great.
It's good. You should be as well. I think your songwriting is also very vast as well. You've tried different sounds and different things, and that last song that I was happy to play harmonica on, I just thought, that is actually kind of a different song for you, and it was nice, and I like that.
Cool, man. Yeah, cheers, and thank you very much for putting some harmonica on it.
That's all right. I was very honoured to do it. My biggest problem is I've been saying, like you, I've been wanting to do an album for years, but the big problem I have is I write a bunch of songs, a few songs, and then all of a sudden I'm happy with that. I just want to release it right away. I just want to do an EP. So the problem is that because with my songwriting, it's quite a sort of slow process. I like to take my time with it. But it gets to a point where I'll be working on a few songs for a few months, and then all of a sudden I'll be I'm happy with that. I don't need to write anymore. Just release it as an EP, and then I'll do an album another time. And it's I've been saying this for maybe the past 7 years. It's I really do need to do an album,
But I think that's what we thrive on. We enjoy the process of having the complete thing and then releasing it.
Yeah.
And then when you've got enough songs to make up an EP, you don't always want to then spend another year doing the next lot. It's quite nice just to have it done, put it out there.
Yeah.
And then do a tour or whatever on the back of that, I guess.
I mean, it's interesting because my first EP, back in 2011, which I cringe every time I hear it. I said it in a radio interview not so long ago that I was I said to them, I'll play one song from this EP because the rest of it I hate. I absolutely hate it.
Do you still have that available like on websites?
It's on Bandcamp.
Yeah. So you still have it up there. It's not a case of like, I don't like that, I'm taking it down.
Yeah,
you have everything up still.
I've never dismissed it. Like, it'll still be on the Bandcamp and all my social media. I mean, I have fond memories of making it because I did it. It was the first EP I ever wrote and recorded, and I recorded it at my friend's place. And you know, I have such good memories of doing it. And I was very proud of it when I released it at the time. But I guess it's just because of the sort of music that I'm writing and recording now. You know, I feel like I've learned a lot in the past few years.
Yeah, definitely.
And I listen to it now and just think, ugh, it's just horrible. I can't really explain it. I think some of the songs were maybe a little bit rushed. And
so you're thinking more? Is it more production-wise or actual songwriter-wise?
No, the production is great. I mean, I didn't record it myself. My friend recorded it, and he did a good job.
So you're happy with that? It's just your actual songwriting. You're not quite up to scratch in your eyes for that time. Songwriting
and performance. Like, I even feel like my vocals could have been a lot better. Just lots of things, really. It's a shame because when I recorded it, my friend was, you know, he had really good equipment, and we recorded it in his place, and I was using his acoustic Taylor, and it was beautiful, and it had, the guitar sounds amazing on it, but it's just, the songwriting and the performance is just naff.
I spent quite a long time a few weeks ago trying to go through, because I've never chucked anything away, so I've probably got all my files from forever, dotted over hard drives, dotted over CDs, trying to find a few of my older songs, the actual project files.
Oh yeah.
So I can possibly do not remix, like a remastery type of thing.
Sure.
Because there's a couple of the older songs that I really, really like, and I think they could be really good, but I don't want to re-record them because I want them to sound exactly how they sound, but they could be cleaned up. You know, you could take the low end off the vocals so it doesn't eat up all the EQ and all those things that I don't understand still. But
these are things I'm still yet to learn about as well.
I know I can shave a bit off the top of here, and I know I can shave a bit off the bottom of there.
Yeah.
Just to make things have a bit more space. I don't really understand the science behind it, but I know I can do it. But I recorded all that on Cubase SX3.
Wow.
Which is not just old, it's very hard to get working on like newer machines and things. I did get it working on an old laptop, but then I couldn't find the drivers for the old laptop. So yeah, I've got a few things to work out. But if I can get those songs recovered, I've got half my album there. Because I'd love to just put out what I think is the definitive of Rise of the Ziggurat. Put those older songs, newer songs, bang, done, package, vinyls, everything. Well, maybe not vinyl, I think that'd be quite expensive, but the release anyway.
Could try. I'll buy one. For sure. I think that's why these days I'm really happy with just being a DIY artist.
Yeah.
Because I think, like, when I did the Black and White EP last year, well, actually I say that, I released it last year, but I actually recorded it, like, before I moved up to London, so that's like 3 years ago I finished it.
Oh, I didn't know there was that long in between.
Oh yeah, I finished it ages ago. I just hadn't released it because I was taking my time with getting it released properly and everything, and doing a ton of promotion for it.
Sending hundreds of emails to people.
Oh yeah, hundreds of emails, no response, crazy. But oh well, but you live and you learn. But the thing about when I worked on that EP, it was interesting because when I recorded it at a mate's house, and he's an incredible producer, and he really knows his stuff, and this was way before, I started investing in my own equipment, and now I do my own recording now. I work from home and everything. But when I was working with him, he was very much helping me out with, like, we were doing a lot of pre-prod stuff, and I've never done pre-prod before. Usually I just used to go up to producer friends with my stuff and then go, okay, let's just record it.
Yeah,
great. But he wanted to do it, he was more professional, and he wanted to be doing pre-prod, which was great. But he also was very much, I learned a lot from how he worked, and when he listened to, like, the demos that I'd done originally, or the ideas that I had, he wanted to pretty much strip them down, because he was thinking more in the aspect of, what sells, what works, what doesn't work. And I learned a lot from him, because interestingly, if you listen to tracks from my older EPs than the black and white one, you can see that the lengths of the tracks have gone down considerably, because on the first couple of EPs I did, they were probably about 5 minutes each.
Oh wow.
Whereas when I worked with him, he was like, listen, if you want to get played on the radio, you need to make 3 minutes max songs.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah. He was like, no wonder you're not getting played on the radio, because no one wants to play songs that are this long. And I was like, huh. And I mean, I was very much a quantity over quality guy. You know, I wanted to write like 5-minute epic songs, and I was like, no wonder I'm not getting played on the radio. Of course, no one's going to play a 5-minute track, you know. Totally makes sense. So I learned a lot from him in that way, and I realised that, you know, being minimal is important. So now when I write songs, I'm all about trying to be as minimal as possible, and it's great. I love it.
If that helps your songwriting and makes you better as an artist, then that's great. I had a problem definitely with when writing for my old metal band, the songs would go 7, 8, 9 minutes just because I had no idea how to structure a song. So we should do that bit again. Yeah,
especially if you're in a prog band maybe or something like that.
I think we would have got away with it if I'd said we're a prog metal band, but I didn't. We were just a metal band, pretty much Metallica rip-off for most of the career. But I just could not structure songs to save my life.
I think that's why anyone that was in a punk band before they became an acoustic solo artist is on a roll, because they could write like a 30-second track or something, you know.
Yeah.
Totally.
In my head, everything just had to be long and go from this point to this point to this point to this point, and then come back to this point, without just going from one to the other, you know.
I think from my... me playing in my bedroom as a teenager, listening to the sort of music I did, and learning guitar the way I did, I was very much it's very important to put as many chords in a song as possible when you're writing it, or put as many different things. Like, you've got to have an intro, you've got to have 3 verses, not 2. Then you've got to have like a chorus, a bridge, an outro. And I'm not saying that's entirely wrong, but I just think, that's like the thing you should worry about last when songwriting. I think it's all about just trying. I think for me, hooks are so important. Hooks are, a catchy chorus, or at least not even something that is catchy. Even like a song that will just get into people's heads, or that easy enough for people to digest so they can sing along. That's just such an important thing.
It's nice when people start singing along, isn't it?
I love it. That's what it's all about.
I think the main thing is just being true to whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. Maybe that's what I was trying to say earlier. Maybe to get to a certain level, you should have to do this, have to do that. But if that's not what you're naturally doing, and you prefer to take a different path, or you want to take that path, and you feel you want to take that information on board, then brilliant. Just trying to force things for the sake of it is not so good.
It's me for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We've just been interrupted by a chap. It's a vegan thing. Are you a vegan?
I was for a month. I used to be vegetarian, but now I'm a flexitarian.
Flexitarian. That's the one, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm all for everything.
Oh right, it's actually a Go Veggie flyer, but they've crossed out veggie and then put vegan in biro above it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I do love animals, and I sometimes do feel bad that I find them so tasty.
Yep, me too.
Unfortunately.
Well, I mean, my partner's from Spain, so
no chance then.
Going to Spain and being a vegetarian is very hard.
I can imagine.
Very difficult.
Yeah. Well,
and being vegan, it's even harder. Because the cheese is so good there.
Oh, yeah, I'm not a cheese person. No? I don't really eat cheese unless it's on a pizza. I have this really weird...
I love cheese. I mean, when I went vegan for a month, I did it because my partner's friends were like, we're all doing a thing at work where we're going vegan for a month, and I said, I'll join in. And I thought it was going to be really hard because I was like, I love eggs and cheese and milk, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But actually, it was a really good experience. I mean, I realised after a month of doing it, I could quite happily live without eggs and cheese and milk. It was good.
Yeah, that's fair enough, yeah.
It was great.
I think if Yeah, no, I've tried. I mean, I have cut down quite a bit because I mean, obviously, I don't like the kind of the whole industry around.
That's the thing, isn't it?
And the processing of
course.
it all.
I think I heard from someone, or I read an article not like a while ago, and they said that, you know, as long as everybody, okay, it doesn't necessarily mean that we all have to cut out dairy completely, but as long as everybody is at least not cutting out their life but cutting down on dairy and meat in a way, then, you know, it will make a big difference. And I you know, that's good, because actually what you just said there, like when I did that month of being a vegan, I actually have cut down a lot more since. So yeah,
but your Coke habit just went up at the time.
Exactly.
To compensate.
This is probably not new. I mean, this must be a subject that gets brought up a lot. But, you know, in Brighton, and even in London, or just anywhere in the world, I walk around and I see chicken places everywhere I go. And I think to myself, where are they getting all the chickens from? And what do they do when no one goes there? You know, like the most random is I go out to London and it's like a Tuesday night, and, you know, there's a chicken place open at midnight, and I think, what do they do when no one goes out on a Tuesday evening? And what do they do with all the chicken they've made? I just think, what is going... Oh, it's crazy.
That's terrifying. I mean,
it is.
The amount of places that I can imagine, well, it's still good. You can use that tomorrow and refry it again or whatever.
There's a song by an artist called Beans on Toast. Have you heard it?
I've heard of him, but not of
He's amazing. He's an incredible songwriter. And he wrote... I think the song is called Chicken Shop, or Chickens. It's incredible. It's just basically a song about what I've just said there about chicken shops, and it's like, where did all the chickens come from? It's great. There was the sun has come out. Jackets off.
Jackets off temporarily.
Temporarily until the clouds come over us again.
Yeah.
Oh, there was a I saw a thing on social media, and it was about like these right-wing activists talking about the vegan sausage roll in Greggs introduced, and they were very angry about it, saying, you know, it's just like, what are they going to... They said something about kebabs. They said something about the Great British Kebab.
Right.
That's it. They said, you know, what's next? They're going to take away the Great British Kebab. And I thought, yeah, kebabs aren't even British, man. I just think, I laughed. I just found it funny, you know.
But they weren't even taking away sausage rolls, were they? They were just offering it as an alternative.
But obviously it's a way for the sort of right-wing press and all that to kind of get angry about something like, these bloody snowflakes and their vegan sausage rolls.
To be a member of many forums, and I learned very early on just there's no winners in internet arguments. There's no winners.
Oh God!
If you enjoy it, you enjoy it. But I stepped away.
Bad motherfucker messaged me the other day, and he was like, Lewis, I'm going to tell you off because you commented on something on Twitter and now there's all these people after you, and I'm like, I just muted them, it's fine, you know, I muted the conversation. I was like, that's it, you know?
Wow, so you can say something, you don't even have to know what people are saying afterwards.
I did for a bit, but then it got to a point where there was like many different people commenting on it, and I was like, okay, I'm done here, I need to get on with my life.
Yeah.
It's fine to do it a couple of times, but now it's just,
it's easy to get sucked into, and there's always a lot of people with a lot more time to continue coming back and to continue arguing, and I can't be arsed anymore.
No, I know, Twitter's the worst as well. I mean, well, they're all pretty bad, to be fair. I mean, the thing about Facebook is I would delete my Facebook account, but unfortunately, as I've had to express to many people, that Facebook, as terrible as it is an incredible networking format. It's how I've been able to get a lot of gigs and know about promoters and just things. There's some great music groups on there, and it's a great platform to use to boost promotion. But Actually, I take that back. You have to pay to get really good promotion on Facebook, unfortunately, which is terrible. And I won't even go into the whole class system with Facebook, because it's like, oh yeah, if you've got money, you can get yourself promoted really well. But if you're poor, then forget about it. No one will ever hear your stuff. So.
Well, I find that even with I keep using like someone like Adele as an example here. I mean, she's alright, she can sing.
Yeah.
But the reason she's mega is because she's had this massive marketing push, and the only reason they've got that is because they've got tons of cash.
Exactly.
The right people are involved, and not taking anything away from her as an artist. She's good. I mean, she's not that good.
I don't want to be envious towards anyone that is very talented and has been lucky to have come from a wealthy background. But I do think it's one of those things where it's unfortunate for those who are really talented, but obviously don't get that kind of backing. It's a shame, but it's just how it is, isn't it?
Exactly.
And it's the same. It's the same with social media as well, because, like I said, if you have money, then it can help you to get popularity. But music is a big popularity contest, so
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had the same discussion with people. Like Facebook, for all its annoyances, it is a very handy networking tool.
Yeah.
And being able to plan stuff on there and do the events and things, I still miss the old days of flyering. And actually, like, going to talk to people in the street with some flyers and try and get them to come to your gig. Not saying you couldn't do that anymore, but I'm not sure if do you need a license for that or a permit to do that nowadays? It wouldn't surprise me if that was the case.
I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't really know.
Not that I would bother, but
isn't it interesting how, in the years that we've done this, how the industry's changed? Because you were talking about flyering there, and it seems like for a lot of people, especially these youngsters, see that as maybe, I don't know, they've never heard of that, or it's a thing of the past.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy to think that I was talking to someone the other day about my latest EP being released on CD in the States, and someone said to me, what, they still make CDs? I was like, well, yeah. And they were like, oh, wow, I forgot about CDs. I was like, oh my God.
I know a lot of people are like that. I don't think it'll kind of die, especially not for a long time.
No. This is something I was thinking about not so long ago. You know how cassette tapes and vinyls are very much coming back, or they are back? Do you think CDs will ever come back the same way that vinyls and the tapes have?
I don't think so. I think just the format of vinyl and tapes is a bit more niche, and I think it's more analog, I guess.
I was thinking about this. Is the vinyls and tapes thing a phase where maybe in 10 years' time we'll get bored of it again, and then
Records will always be popular.
I hope so.
Records will always be popular. I think cassettes are just... I think that's a phase, because I think it's more of a nostalgia kind of thing, because it doesn't offer any superior quality over anything else, is it, a cassette tape?
Sure.
Not saying they're bad, I don't know the specifics, but...
I do like tapes, though.
But yeah, no, I like them, and I have a quite an affinity for them, to be honest. And I'd like to get one done at some point, but I don't think it will kind of stay the course as much as records going to. Records might go away, they'll always come back, I think.
I think it's sad, because when I was younger, I had some absolutely incredible cassette tapes that unfortunately are gone from my existence. But if only I could retrieve them, because I had incredible tapes.
I think all mine are up in my parents' loft somewhere.
I had The Offspring Americana on tape. And
we had that as well, I think.
Incredible. And it sounded so good on tape.
Yeah.
And I think kids these days don't know what they're missing. They really don't. I mean, I remember vividly having a Toto album on tape, and I had to keep rewinding it every time I wanted to listen to the same song.
That's the thing, I think we appreciate music because of these. Not appreciate music, just appreciate it a little bit more, because we don't take it for granted so much.
No.
I do quite like Spotify now. I have been using it.
Yep.
So I'm not against that anymore. No, I was never against it. I was just a bit wary of it.
You've read my mind, because I was about to mention Spotify, and interestingly, I think I was talking about this to someone the other day, and I said kids with Spotify don't understand the frustration that we went through, because when we were kids, when we were their age, in order to listen to the song we wanted to, we had to sit by the radio with the tape ready to hit record when it came on the top 40.
Yeah.
And then, you know, obviously, hopefully that the DJ wouldn't talk all over the track that we were trying to record. And that was kind of, in a way, our Spotify. Or actually, no, going back a little bit more, that was our Napster.
That's our Napster, yeah.
When we first... do you remember the days of, like, 99 or 2000 when we had dial-up internet?
Of course.
And Napster was free back then. It was when it was illegal, and it took me like 5 days to download Freak on a Leash, which was the first song I downloaded on Napster, and I was like, 5 days later, yes, I've got Freak on a Leash. Oh, actually, funny story. I downloaded Napster for the first time and I didn't really understand it, how it worked, nothing. I was a total noob back then, but then who wasn't, you know, in Windows 98, you know, no one understands it. I downloaded Napster and I downloaded what I thought was Freak on a Leash. I played it, it took me 5 days to download, played it, and it was a live Woodstock 99 version, and I almost cried. I was like, damn it, I've been waiting for this for ages. Or the worst was, did you ever have this, was when, like, back in the days of, like, Napster and LimeWire,
bizarre.
You would download the tracks, and you would think it was Slipknot, but then you'd play it, and it was, like, some random metal band from, Norwegian metal band, and you'd be like, oh, that was not Slipknot.
Oh yeah,
it's fake.
We downloaded a lot of things that were fake and a lot of things that were mistitled as well. But I think the worst one was when I think my brother tried downloading, let's say, The Matrix or something like that. And it was porn. It was just porn. But
yeah,
like,
that's a common problem.
Yeah, I think.
That's why I'm always very careful if I download a film.
Especially, I'm pretty sure he found out about it. Oh, hey, Dad, look at this! I've downloaded that. Oh shit!
Oops.
Yeah.
I remember my friends were really excited when I was at school because they downloaded Spider-Man off the internet before the Sam Raimi one, before it was the one with Tobey Maguire, before it came out in the cinema. And it was just really weird because they had it in, like, because back then you couldn't have a film as one file. It was in like 3 different files, like part 1, part 2, part 3. I was like, my God, you know how times have changed. And
okay, well, just before that then, do you remember Ware's sites? W-A-R-E-Z.
No.
So this was the stuff you'd get all your dodgy material before file sharing.
Wow.
There was always some types of file sharing.
Yeah.
You had like DC++ and like more FTP and direct connect
man,
things.
I missed out on all this.
But beforehand, you go to these dodgy sites. Probably I got a spinning GIF on them as well, as they all did back in the day. But you'd say like, oh, The Matrix, but it had like 20 parts that you'd download, like each part, and either you'd WinRAR it so it'd unzip it all into one, or as you say, it'd be like just 3 different video files.
Yeah.
But you'd have to download it all at once, and that could be a risky predicament anyway, especially if you're on dial-up.
Yeah.
Your internet goes, just wasted all that time.
Is it really sad that I actually, when I was just bored one day, I actually typed into YouTube like old dial-up sound, and I got really nostalgic to hear that dial-up sound. I was like, oh, good times. Reminds me of many wasted days on the internet when I was like 13, 14 years old.
I fucking loved the internet at that time. Being able to just go to websites that people have put on, not their social media and stuff. Like go to a GeoCity site that someone who just was really interested in a band had put together.
Oh God!
Download a MIDI file.
Totally off the record here, don't you? Don't include this one. No, you can keep.
Right, now you've said it. I know to take it off. It's fine.
I remember. Oh God, this is so. I can't believe I'm telling you this. When I was like 13 or 12, I made from HTML. Some of it HTML, and then I did it on
like Notepad or something.
Yeah. Well, Notepad, and then I did it on like Publisher.
Oh yeah.
I made 2 fan websites, but you'll never see them because I made them on my computer, but I never uploaded them to GeoCities because I had really bad confidence problems, and I was like, I don't want to put them online because people think they're shit. I made a Matrix website. Yes.
Brilliant.
And then I made a wrestling website. And it was awesome. And you know what? It was a really good wrestling website that I actually updated at home. But I was like, why am I updating it? No one's seeing it because I'm doing it at home.
That's amazing. A friend of mine used to do a band website, and she used to ask me for like the Radiohead kind of update side of things.
Yeah.
That was really cool. My friend and I tried putting together a website. I don't think it was about anything, but we used lots of spinning GIFs, obviously, and had a really obnoxious like URL as well. So you had to type in all these words just to get to it, and it was dodgy. Hosted on BraveNet, I think.
I mean, I do usually... Oh, BraveNet, that's a blast from the past.
Yeah.
I mean, I must admit, you know, you look at websites now and you think, they've not got that quality that we had when we were younger, you know, like with Comic Sans. Love it.
It's a shame that did you hear that whoever was it Yahoo deleted all of GeoCities. It didn't even
monsters
store it or anything.
Why did they do that? Oh man,
that should be archived, and that should be readily available for people to trawl through.
Oh, what? You know, that's almost annoyed me as much as when I heard in the news, like not so long ago, that MySpace deleted all the music from like the past few years.
How is MySpace still going? I still get an email from them every couple of weeks saying, MySpace top 8.
Yeah,
Who's running you?
I get the odd email.
I've got a feeling it's running by itself. I think AI has taken over, and MySpace doesn't quite know what it is, but it's just running itself.
I don't tell people this often, but when I had MySpace, everyone was friends with Tom, but me, because he never added me.
Whoa!
I was like, fuck you, Tom.
Fuck you, Tom. I used to have a live journal. Do you remember Live Journal?
I remember Live Journal. I never had one, but I remember it.
Yeah, that was like blogs before blogs, really.
Yeah.
It was one of those you'd go on and write your diary for everyone to see. Why the fuck would you do that? And
I feel like that's kind of what Facebook is sometimes a little bit, you know, is just exposing your private life. But yeah, Live Journal was literally like an online diary.
Yeah, I guess you could probably mark posts as, I think I probably marked a lot of them as secrets. But there was a lot of times that I didn't, and there was a lot of times where I'd get back from the Gloucester after a night of drinking and...
Brilliant.
Terrible.
You know what's funny is I know so many people that did that.
But the problem was, it only occurred to me like last year or something, like, I wonder if Live Journal's still going.
It is.
Shit. Went through all the steps to try and recover my account. Delete.
Was there a lot of embarrassing stuff there?
Terrible things.
You know, it's funny. I
mainly talking about my band and anything else, but
you know what you just said there about Live Journal. That's funny because it's all still there. But if you've been on MySpace lately, wall posts are gone, messages are gone. I'm in two minds about this. I think, all the really cringeworthy stuff is gone because, God, a lot of stuff I wrote about was just terrible.
Yeah.
But I also, at the same time, feel a bit sad because it was memories and they're all gone, and it kind of sucks. But
I do, and that's why it comes back to archiving as well. Like, I like the fact that a lot of the internet now gets archived.
Yeah.
But I still think it'd be up to us. It still should be up to us to choose what is on there. Like, I don't want like me bitching about my bandmates, or maybe think, I don't know. That's the worst thing I'm going to say that I did. That should be up to us if we choose to have that archived or not. Perhaps, you know.
The Wayback Machine.
Wayback Machine. I keep trying to find my old website.
You know about Wayback Machine?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, I always thought like I've never met many people that know about Wayback Machine, and I'm like, oh yeah, you know, I'm going to see what this website looked like in 2003. Brilliant.
Yeah. It's really good. It's really fun for that.
I love it.
I listened to a podcast called The Retro Hour.
Yeah.
And they were speaking to someone who archives like old. What was it? I can't remember now. Like old BBC footage and restores it off VHS tape.
Brilliant.
So now he has the painstaking task of restoring. No, that's it. It's teletext. Sorry, I was talking about teletext. And this is really interesting because he's trying to... There's no backups of anything of teletext. Yeah. But apparently, if you recorded the TV, the teletext was encoded into the recording.
What?
So it can be retrieved off VHS recordings. Even if you can't get to it naturally, you can't click text or anything.
Sure.
But it's encoded into that videotape. So he now gets sent thousands and thousands of the VHS tapes.
Incredible.
And so they're trying to slowly recover teletext for 30 years worth of teletext or something.
You know what I was saying to you earlier about I got really bored and I YouTubed the dial-up sound?
Yeah.
I actually have YouTubed teletext, and my favourite thing ever, and you don't see it anymore because it's, I don't know, You know, like when TV channels would like go, right, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, we're going to close down, and you'd have the test screen. I YouTube stuff like that, and I was like, man, great memories. You know, you'd be up till 1 o'clock in the morning, and then you got the like, but you don't get that anymore.
No,
it's like BBC News 24, you know.
Yeah. And they also play like the national anthem.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
I can imagine younger Mike like staying up and be like, or something or other, national anthem, hand on heart as it goes down.
I've just realised I've not been talking about songwriting at all.
That's fine. No, that's fine.
Just good nostalgia, like, you know, like you say about the how technology of tapes and CDs have changed and all that, and it's just like.
And things always go in circles, I find, as well. Especially now we're old enough to have experienced some of these circles. But like things like record players, all the digital music is great and it will be popular forever. But then a lot of people that will get bored of that, or they'll discover there's another way to listen to music, or there's another platform to listen to music on, and they'll find something else, and
there will always
it will
be
just
something
keep going
else.
around. Yeah.
But again, I mean, when I was doing black and white, my producer said to me, the only problem with vinyl is even if you have the financial backing and you can get like a batch of 7 inches made for your EP, what you've also got to think about is your demographic, like your audience, going to buy them? And that's another problem as well,
that is incredibly important, because I don't have much of an audience, but they definitely don't like buying CDs.
I think it'd be interesting, because you say that about CDs, but not a lot of people want to buy CDs sometimes, you know. But with vinyl, that is such a different thing, because I'm a sucker for vinyl, and I'll go to like a gig, and even if it's a band that I've never heard of, I look at a vinyl and I think, I want to buy that. I don't know what it is. I just think I've only just listened to these guys once. I thought they were good. I see a vinyl right there, I'm going to buy it because I love vinyl, you know, and there's something nice about the experience of it. Excuse me, I'm just sneezing. Cut.
Then why do we keep doing CDs? Like, if that's a dying medium, and
I know,
is it to fulfil our own?
It's like a safety blanket we can't let go of. No, I think CDs are good. I think the good thing about CDs, at least, is if you're DIYing them, they're not very expensive.
Nah.
So even if you give them away for free, it's okay, because it's not a great loss. I think sometimes I see DIYing the CDs as like a really good investment. It's, you know what? It sounds crazy, but I give a lot of badges away for free at gigs. Badges cost more to distribute than it does for me to make CDs.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't even see it as an investment. It is just a nice, easy way to give something away for free. I mean, I always say to my audience, like, oh, I've got CDs to sell, but most of the time I know that they're not going to buy one off me. So usually I just give them away or barter with them, you know, which is also nice. But
yeah.
I don't mind. You know, it's not like a big. It's not a big loss. It's just nice for them.
It's quite nice to have the music out there as well.
Exactly.
I have this habit of taking my CDs wherever we go, on holiday, hotels or whatever, and then just leaving them places, like in pubs and things. And the pub probably more often than not just sees it as a.
Are you hearing this?
Yeah, so what's just happened? The vegans have all just left, and now they're being attacked verbally by a group of other people in the park saying, where's your plastic going to go? Because they've got a lot of plastic on them. So that was quite funny. Completely lost my train of thought.
Awkward. Yeah, I know. I forgot what we were talking about. CDs.
Oh, sorry. I'm now going to be really unprofessional and answer my phone.
Do it.
The only problem with that, and this is a problem I have with some things now, it's great to have all these places that want us to play. It's good to have all these blogs, podcasts maybe, these radio stations. How many people are listening to these things? There's a lot of, and that's a great thing about technology and the internet. There's a lot of things you can do and go and play and stuff. But how many people are listening and tuning in. You know, are all the people in the hospital listening to the radio thing?
Yeah.
Not that it necessarily matters. It's still fun to do.
Yeah,
it's just something I think about quite a bit. I think I started thinking about it more when I was out of work and started having no money to actually do these things anymore. It's like, well, you know, if I'm missing out on doing that, and because I haven't got the money, was there many people listening? Because I never get any feedback after anything. I don't know if you get any feedback from anyone. If I do a radio show, I hear nothing afterwards. Like, I'm not saying
rare
that,
occasion.
I'm not saying that people should. I'm not saying that I'm like amazing and people should. But you kind of think, like, there's been times where I've heard stuff and I'll message the person and be like, oh, that was really good, you know. Because maybe people, I don't know, well, maybe just no one likes what I've done. That's fair enough, I guess.
I don't know. It's a weird one. It's just like people assume because it's internet radio, I listen to the repeat, you know. Yeah. I won't listen to it on the air. I think, you know, it's interesting. Radio is something that's still, like, I wouldn't say it's alive and well, but, well, say that, actually, it is still going. It's not something that's died out at all.
No.
You know, it may not be as popular as it used to be, but it's certainly still there, and it's, people still want to listen to the radio, so that's good.
Definitely, I think it is good.
With the technology, it's given more people to the opportunity and the access to create their own radio shows and do like online radios and stuff like that. It's good.
That's cool. I'd love to do a bit of that myself, but I don't think I'd be able to host anything live.
No.
I really enjoy the podcast and I really enjoy the writing of the podcast, but if I was doing it live, I'd just be like...
Radio is hard, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, people who do radio, they have to be... It's not just about the enthusiasm, but I think they also have to be able to just be really good at talking. Just talk. And just, like, know what to say and know what to... and always have that energy, you know, and I think that's difficult. I find that difficult. You have to be like, I couldn't do radio. No.
Pete Jones is good at that.
Pete Jones.
Keep talking.
Pete Jones.
Yeah, he's awesome, isn't he?
He's great. And you were on the show not so long ago.
That was quite fun.
Was that the first time you've been on Pete Jones?
No, I've been on a couple of times before. I think the first time I went on, I feel like it was about 2015.
Oh, really?
Which was quite a long time ago.
Yeah.
And then I went on last year. I think you put an appeal out, like, does anyone want to come and play tonight? Because I've had a cancellation. And I sent them a message, and yes, I'll come and play. But both the previous times have been quite rushed because the shows were only an hour instead of 2 hours.
Got you.
Because they had other festival things on that took up some of the time.
Okay.
But it was good to go down there, and I hung out with him afterwards because he was sorting out some of the technical side, and I was quite interested to see how it actually works and how they get the repeats to play by themselves if no one's manned in the studio. So that was quite interesting.
And then I messaged him.
Yeah.
But he didn't specify that when I wrote Mike of the Ziggurat rules, he didn't say that I did a rock sign, you know, and I was like, I put one of those on there, you know.
That's cool. That's one of the cool things about his show. You do get that interaction.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe what I missed about maybe doing the Crawley one or something, because it's not a contact us now if you want to chat or anything.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Because if I listen to Pete Jones, quite often, 90% of the time, I'm going to text in and comment on a track or say, oh, Lewis, yay!
It's nice. Yeah, I like that.
It's really cool, and I think he really enjoys that as well. Because even if I send him the most blandest text about nothing, he'll be like, oh, we've had a text message from the Rise of the Ziggurat.
And the nice thing about Pete as well is that he always mentions Brighton artists.
Yes.
And he always remembers and is very much on it with the scene, and that's nice. I like that.
Definitely.
I'm not saying Ian doesn't, because Ian is, you know, he does actually make mention to other artists that have been on the show, but with Pete, it's very much like he's on the radar, like he knows what everyone's doing, and
he gets contacted by a lot of people, and it's good that I've always liked his show because it's underground, unsigned, or even if they're signed, it's local artists, it's Brighton artists and things.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome. Sorry, I'm really put off by that dog down. And that's what I always really enjoyed about his show, because it wasn't full of covers and it wasn't full of mainstream music, because the rest of Radio Reverb is mostly mainstream stuff.
He always like brings a stack of CDs in, Pete, and will always be like, right, I'm going to play this on the show from these guys from Brighton and these guys from Brighton, and these guys don't live in Brighton anymore, but I really like what they did, so I'm going to put it on. And it's just like, it's great because it's very true to what Radio Reverb should be about, and it's a good Brighton-based radio show. So
that's one of the things I found when I was listening to other presenters on there. It was more commercial stuff. It's like, well, if I want that, I can just go to Six Music or Radio 1 or something.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I want to tune into Brighton radio to listen to things about Brighton and musicians from Brighton, or at least associated acts as well, or
I guess it's
unsigned or whatever.
I guess it's because the audiences are different.
Yeah,
from Crawley Radio to Brighton. You know, I mean, Crawley Hospital to Radio Reverb. I guess the audiences are very different. Like early afternoon, and Chris TT was headlining, and I stayed all the way to the end for Chris TT to play.
Were you battered by the end of that?
I was, and I remember Chris and I were chatting away, and I was like, I'm quite drunk, man. I'm talking so much rubbish right now. Like, oh god.
Do you still speak to him? Because he's moved away from music now, hasn't he? Or
I
at least publicly.
Still talk to him every now and then. I think he dabbles in lots of different things, and he's actually on my live album.
Oh, cool.
Because I did a gig for him at the Marlborough Theatre, and he did an introduction. So I recorded it, and it will be the opening track on the live album.
Did you put that online? Because I feel like I heard that, but I wasn't at the gig because I was.
You know, actually, it's interesting you say that. I think Chris said it was going to be live on the air or something, but I've never heard it. And I only recorded that part of the show. Okay. But I did do another show at the Marlborough, and I recorded that. But no, if there does exist some audio, I want to know.
Unless it was a video or something, I'm sure that I listened to you being introduced by Chris TT at the Marlborough.
Yeah, the audio comes in the video. So yeah, you would have heard the intro.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, no, Chris is a great guy. Big influence, you know.
Well, my friends used to be into him around 2001 or so. So we'd go out, and I'd tag along with him to see him playing his band down the Hanbury ballrooms and places like that.
Good times.
But I never really got really into him. I liked him,
sure,
but I never really got into him. I was going out because we were going out with a few mates and watching the gig and stuff, and it was always fun. But I'd seen him 4, 5, 6 times.
The first time I ever saw him was when he supported. It was interesting. He was opening for a gig, and it was a tsunami benefit gig back in 2005 at the Concorde 2. He was opening, and Electric Soft Parade, British Sea Power, and 80s Matchbox Beeline Disaster were headlining. So it was like a sort of best of Brighton type gig, and it was for charity. And he was opening, and I went right at the beginning and watched Chris TT. And it's funny because I saw Chris TT headlining at that gig. Opening at that gig. And then I hadn't really followed what he'd done afterwards for a while. But then I started getting into Frank Turner. And then I rediscovered Chris TT through Frank Turner, because it was when I started listening to Frank Turner, he was in the band at the time, like playing piano.
Right, okay, I knew there was a connection. I've seen them cross paths, but I don't know what they were specifically.
They were on the same record label. They were both on Extra Mile Records, and I think Chris temporarily filled in for piano and keyboards for Frank Turner whilst they recruited someone else for a little while. And then I realised, hang on a minute, I recognise that guy. His name's Chris TT. Oh, yeah, he was at that benefit gig I went 2 years ago in Brighton. Oh, he's from Brighton. Oh, bloody hell. And then I remember walking past him, and before we got introduced to each other and knew each other, I remember walking past him a couple of times in Brighton, and I was like, that's Chris TT, what the hell?
I've done the same thing. I've been walking past him, and I'd look at him and I'd kind of smile a bit, and he would, I don't know if he'd clock me or not, but I always kind of thought, I wonder if he recognises me, because we used to see him so much, and they always used to talk to him.
Yeah.
I kind of think he might even recognise me to an extent. You know, he's one of those kind of audience members from the past. But I got talking to him at Preston Park. They had that Together the People Festival. It ran for 2 years.
Oh,
really, really good. And he played at that in a little tent.
Brian Wilson played.
Brian Wilson, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I wasn't in the country at the time. Yeah, I missed out on that. But yeah, Chris TT played at that.
It was good, yeah. And he was in a little tent, and we spoke to him afterwards and got a CD and stuff. And that was just quite nice, and that ended up being one of the last kind of things he was doing.
It was a bit of a shock when he all of a sudden went, I'm calling it a day. A real shock. I went to his last ever gig at the Lexington in London. It was sad because I just thought, man, you know, he's had such a legacy of songwriting, you know, and not just being a acoustic singer-songwriter, but I mean, even if you listen to his earlier stuff, it was like psych pop, and he was very much probably involved with the early indie days, and his music's very vast, and you know, he's an influential guy. Like, I mean, even if you look at what Frank Turner's doing now, Frank Turner was influenced by Christy T because he listened to 9 Red Songs, the album by Christy T, which was like a very political acoustic album, and you know, he's had a big influence on a lot of artists.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think when he called it a day, it was just a real shock because he's definitely played some kind of influence on me, and I thought, you know, what's he going to do next? I don't know, you know, I'm going to miss hearing his music, and
I think he'll be back because
I hope so.
Singer-songwriters like that, I mean, like us, even if we said we were stopping, you'd still go and write loads of songs.
Yeah,
you know.
I hope so.
When the writer's block subsides.
Yeah.
I tried doing nothing this year, and I started, and then just accidentally
it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, it does. And then you realise you've got all these demos on your phone. Well, now then it's the decision: do I do something with those or not do something with those?
I can't say I miss Shoreham.
I quite like Shoreham. I like, what's the good pub out there? The Welly.
The Welly. Oh my God, the Welly's the best pub. Yeah, I miss the Welly.
It's
the
awesome
Welly's
in
the
there,
best.
yeah.
That Attila the stockbroker goes in there a lot. That's his favourite pub.
Well, this is a weird thing. Before BIM, when I had come out of school,
did you go to BIM?
I didn't, no.
Okay.
But I went to music college at BTEC, and it looks like it's the thing that BIM became.
Oh, really?
So we did like a music course there, and we had various tutors showing us different things. It feels like what I kind of gather might be like a BIM light kind of thing.
Yeah.
But Attila was one of our tutors.
No
because
way.
His wife was our main tutor through the whole thing. But then he would be brought in, and some of like the Fish Brothers or Barnstormer or whatever the band was at the time.
Barnstormer. Yeah.
And they'd come in and do like workshops and stuff as well.
No way.
So I've got footage somewhere of us playing with Attila.
Oh, no way. That's awesome. Like, actually, funny story. Here's a fun fact for you. So the first EP that I recorded, that I was telling you about, that makes me cringe.
Yeah.
That was actually recorded at Attila's house. Well, some of it was because Pat, Attila's wife's son,
right?
Attila's stepson, he was the guy that recorded it. He's a good friend of mine called Pat.
Oh, wow.
Pat Bland, and his mum,
Rabina.
Yeah. That's his wife, yeah.
Shit. Yeah, so Rabina, was our tutor at college.
She's lovely. She's so nice.
I haven't spoken to her in years. She was always trying to get us to sing, and I think on like the last day I did a line of a song. She was quite happy with that. But
oh man, I feel like Brighton used to be so much better in terms of the music venues and the live events that these venues used to put on and everything. It's like, why don't they do this anymore? I don't understand. King and Queen, they used to put on a lot of live music, but now these days it's just...
I got told they put on cover bands on Sundays.
Yeah, that's what I mean though. It's either cover bands or the football, but I mean, they actually used to put on a lot of like decent acts and stuff.
This is part of a wider problem, and I could talk to you probably rambling for hours about it. Obviously the Brighton scene has changed, and I think BIM has had a lot to do with that. So like a lot more people are business people, musicians, before just going out and playing gigs.
Yeah.
So you'll have a lot of people like, it's way like we were talking about earlier on, we like to go to gigs and like to hang out and see the bands, and when we can, when you can, it's not always possible. Let's go and hang out and stuff. But a lot of gigs I observed over the past couple of years, not just ones I was playing, but ones I was at as well, like one of my locals, the Admiral, they're putting on an acoustic showcase. Oh, great.
Is this run by Jack Evans?
No, not him. No, it's a different one. But people would kind of come and go as if it was just... It was felt like it was taken for granted.
Yeah.
There wasn't really a wasn't really a focus on the night. You know, we're going to all have a really good gig. Everyone's going to come along and have a good time. It was like, well, I'm going to go and play my gig. I'm going to fuck off again. Someone else might come in and go again. And that's fine. If that's the way people are doing stuff now, fair enough. But that's hurting the venues. And I don't think that's sustainable for the venues either, for not having a proper big, what was I trying to say? Proper big kind of feeling, like proper gig.
Yeah.
It's a showcase now where people kind of come and go. And there's a lot of, I don't know, taken for granted in it. I think.
You know, I know what you mean. I was playing a gig the other night in London, and it was at this place in Dalston Junction called Rocksteady. And it was an okay night. It was nice. But, you know, I know what you mean. What I found really sad was one of the acts, and it's not something that happens too often, but it does happen every now and then.
Yeah.
Sometimes an act will play at the beginning of the night, or just in the middle or whatever. They'll play, and then what do they do after they finish? They leave.
Fuck off.
Yeah, and it really upsets me, because I just think, you know, if you're playing a night with all these artists, at least have the opportunity to, you know, socialise, network with people, or, I don't know, watch the other acts. But they literally played and went, and I think to myself, if you're not getting paid to be here, what are you getting out of just... I mean, I understand it. Yeah, you're getting the opportunity to play in front of an audience. That's nice. That's great. But as well as just playing, isn't it nice to just kind of hang around and enjoy the evening, and don't, like you say, don't take the event for granted. Actually check out the other artists and check and see what they're like and what they've got to offer you, and network, and yeah,
you sum it up more articulately than I can.
But I know exactly what you're saying.
Dying breed of us that actually enjoy the gig. It's not just a case of come along, do my thing.
Stay for the night.
Yeah, and that's weird to me, and that's why I was going back to the. I'm not saying that I'm against BIM or anything. I know those people in BIM, you know, but that's just what I've noticed over the past few years. When I'll tell you why I came to this conclusion. Matt Boller's Cube Nights. Okay,
yeah, I remember those. Yeah.
We'd have a really good gig. We'd turn up and play some songs and stuff. That was really, really nice. And then there was a couple of people we started to get to know who were like freshers in BIM and stuff.
Yeah.
And they'd come along, they'd turn up, they'd order their glass of water, they'd play their few songs,
and go.
And fuck off again. Oh, okay.
Nice to meet you.
That's good, yeah. Or they'd go and play, and they're like, oh, well, we've got an open mic to play over there, and then we're going to go to that open mic over there. And
what
I understand.
What are you getting out of doing all that? That's
exactly, you know. And the main problem I had was people go on about the great Brighton music scene, but the great Brighton music scene won't be able to sustain itself if the artists are then taking it so much for granted. They're just going to use it and fuck off, use it, fuck off.
It annoys me so much, that kind of attitude of just, you know, I came here to play for me.
Some people get somewhere with it, and I'm always wary when something explodes out of nowhere. I think they had the right backing behind it as well. Someone has said, look, okay, we're going to put some money into them and get them out there. Because I don't think it just happens. If I see a poster for a band from Brighton before I've even heard their music, someone has got some money behind them.
It's funny, actually, because local legends, the Lanes...
Yeah, they're still going, aren't they?
They are still going.
We all must have supported them at some point in our career.
Oh, I've supported them many times. We all have. You're not from Brighton until you've supported the Lanes. And
I wonder if they'd be happy with that.
I know Graham quite well.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to tell Graham very well. Like, yeah, you know, actually, I said this on a podcast.
I like that. I think that's great. The fact that the Lanes have been going for so long, and they are like a staple Brighton band, aren't they? We can both hold them in high regard. Definitely.
They had Royal Blood as one of their support acts at one of their gigs. My dear friend Scott McRae, who maybe you've met before.
Don't know if I have. The name rings a bell, but I'm not sure I've met.
He was in a band called The Fusion.
Okay.
And then he ran his own events company called SBM Events, or the Sonic Agency.
Okay.
And he gave me the opportunity to open for John Power from Cast.
Yep.
Opened for John Power years ago through Scott, but Scott put on a gig where he had the Lanes headlining and Royal Blood supporting.
Amazing.
We're just going to put some up and coming band.
I love that, but then that shows exactly how fickle it all is, because they might have still played to 3 people who might not have cared, but with the right backing, the right exposure, they could be massive.
Yeah.
That's how fickle the whole industry is, isn't it, really?
Ready?
I'm ready.
I never, ever went to the Pressure Point. I never went.
This interview's over.
I never had an opportunity to go.
Really?
I don't know why. I remember it being open. Actually, here you go. You can add this to the podcast. Funny story.
Yeah.
This is not an over-exaggeration whatsoever. I promise you. I went to... so I was on a night out in Brighton back in 2010 or 2009. And I was pretty drunk. We were roaming around Brighton at midnight trying to find somewhere to go after places started to close, and we went, let's go to the Pressure Point. This was before, what year was it the Pressure Point actually closed down?
2009, I think.
Oh, maybe it was 2000. Yeah, it probably was 2009.
Yeah, I think so.
2009 then. So we went to the Pressure Point.
That might have been the Freebird actually. One of those big places close down then.
Yeah. But it was definitely the Pressure Point, because it was before it was the hostel. So we went past the Pressure Point, and there was a guy standing outside, and we went, is it open? And he went, it is open, but it's ticket holders only. It's a private gig, like a secret gig. And we were like, ooh, can we get tickets for it? And he went, no. And he was shaking his head. And we were like, well, who's playing here tonight? It must be someone really important. And he went, Cole Kennedy from Neighbours.
I remember this. There was posters around town for his gig.
No way. Cole Kennedy. So shit, that's amazing.
Yeah, I remember when he played Brighton. So that was this kind of secret one, was it? Or was it just tickets only?
And it was at midnight. I was like, what?
I think he was doing another gig somewhere. That might have been a separate show.
Cole Kennedy. I mean, I know that's his character's name. I don't know what the actor's name is called.
I'm glad I've forgotten, because I used to watch Neighbours quite a lot back in my
Me too.
youth.
Secret guilty pleasure right there. I could have gone to the Pressure Point, but didn't.
It's a shame. I mean, it was good. The venue was really good. Nice big stage. Nice DJ booth, and a bar upstairs as well, which helps. An actual bar where you can actually buy beer. That was cool.
I mean, I know what we were saying earlier about never living. No regrets.
No regrets. No.
But one of my biggest regrets was not going to the Pressure Point back in the, I want to say the year 2000, 2001. But to be fair, I was quite young at the time, so I probably wouldn't have been able to go. I didn't go to see Muse playing there, being supported by a young up-and-coming band called Coldplay. They were supported by Coldplay at the Pressure Point, and I was told this many years ago, and I was like, what? It was like, oh yeah, some young up-and-coming band called Coldplay supported Muse.
Yeah, I remember hearing about Muse playing there. I think Radiohead might have played there as well, possibly.
Biffy Clyro as well.
Clyro,
of course. I've seen photos of Biffy Clyro playing at the Pressure Point.
And I think Coldplay played at the Freebird. I think that's another place they played as well.
Yeah.
The Pressure Point was good because... Go
on, you say.
Well, I was going to say the Pressure Point was good because so many different bands played there, and you could have bigger bands play there, smaller bands play there. They'd have DJ nights, and it was just a really nice venue to be at.
Yeah.
But it was so big also that if you had a weeknight, not many people, then you'd see there not many people. But it was still atmospheric in there. You still had kind of nice lighting and nice stage and everything. So it still felt like a worthwhile gig to play or to attend.
It's a shame. I wish I could go back and revisit it, but it's not a venue anymore, which is such a shame. I mean, Passenger played there, but then again, Passenger was this kind of local legendary artist in a way that had been playing in Brighton for many, many, many years.
I don't know much about Passenger. I seem to have completely been off the radar.
Passenger was a band for like many years, 10 years, and then when they split up, Mike Rosenberg, he decided to take the name as a solo name, as a name for a solo project. And then he landed himself a '1 hit when he was in his 30s. So it took him a very, very long time to get to where he was, but he stuck at it. So
what you're saying is there's still a chance.
Exactly, which is what. Well, you know what? I read an unauthorized biography by C6 Steve, and C6 Steve is a complete inspiration. I think it doesn't matter what age you are. You have all the time in the world to do what you want to do. So
The thing is, I read something about C6 Steve. That's all just a character.
And he totally capitalised on that, though, didn't he?
No, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I actually thought he was like.
But his music's fucking. His
music's great. Yeah.
I mean, and he, I remember watching him on like BBC News, and he came on BBC News with like a 2-string bass with a slide, or a guitar with like 1 string, and he, invented all these crazy instruments himself. He's like some kind of like psychotic genius, but I think the guy's fantastic.
He's brilliant.
Yeah,
I think they gave me the impression that he was a bit more hard up than he actually is. That was the only thing that I found a bit jarring at the time.
From reading his unauthorized biography, he was definitely like struggled for many years with just like, I say personal problems, but like homelessness and stuff like that, and he used to busk in Paris and different parts of the world, but he got his big break from recording like an album in his kitchen, which someone picked up on, who was a producer for the Jules Holland show, and then it was when he appeared on the Hootenanny, he gained this, like, he got a record deal, he gained this kind of worldwide success. So for C6 Steve, he was lucky,
let me bring you back to something you just said then. How do you busk in all different parts of the world?
Exactly, that's the thing though, isn't it? That's the thing.
How do you achieve that?
That's the problem, isn't it?
That is $1 million question, surely.
How did he get there? While we're on the subject of artists who made it later in life, okay, this is going to sound like the strangest one, but it really fascinates me. Do you remember the guy, the Scatman?
Scatman John?
Yeah. I looked a bit more into his kind of his life story, or like his career.
Yeah.
He's got an interesting one, like C6 Steve. This was a guy who is an accomplished and an incredible jazz musician who, believe it or not, he's an incredible scat singer, but he made the scat singing a thing because he has a speech impediment. He's got a stammer, which is really bad, and he went to Berlin to pursue his jazz career, because obviously in like the early 90s jazz wasn't really popular. So, but in Europe and in Berlin they appreciate jazz. Yeah. But obviously back in the mid 90s, Europop was huge. So when Europop picked up on when someone picked up on what he was doing, they wanted to turn it into like a Europop song and do like an album with him. And the guy became massive, but mostly massive in Japan.
Japan, oh wow.
Apparently he is one of the biggest international artists in Japan of all time. We're talking like up there with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. Like Scatman John is like massively high up. But I think it's such a nice like kind of success story, because I don't know, people listen to that song by the Scatman and they think, it's just some crappy mid-90s like pop song, but actually there's a bit more to the guy than to how he got there. I think that's like such an interesting, like, it's a very nice story.
I can't remember why, but I was looking him up on Wikipedia a few weeks ago, and then saw, not quite as in detail what you've just said, but so much more to that chap than just that one thing.
He's
Incredible.
he's an interesting guy, but I do find artists like him or C6 Steve interesting, because I think these days with the pop industry, there's a lot of stigma behind music's a young man's game, so if you don't make it by the time you're in your mid-20s, then forget about it. I don't necessarily agree with that at all. I think
It's bollocks.
it is bollocks. I mean, even Passenger is like, he was in his 30s when he got a number one hit. And
First Damien Rice album. How old was he then?
oh god,
He must have been 30s.
Yeah, of course. So it's never too late. And I mean, yeah. It's good.
But it's just that I think the problem is the people with the big people with the power and the money are making these horrendous decisions about what should be popular, what shouldn't be popular, and who should be famous or who should be big or who should be played on the radio and all that kind of thing.
I think it just depends on what you want to be and what you're trying to do. And if you want to be the next Ed Sheeran, then yeah, sure.
Don't get me started on Ed Sheeran. Why'd you bring up Ed Sheeran? Fucking Ed Sheeran.
I'm really sorry. I don't know why I use Ed Sheeran as an example, because I've got nothing really against the guy. I think he's very talented and he seems like a nice guy, but I only use him as an example because when you think about pop acoustic artists that want to be famous, Ed Sheeran always springs to mind.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got nothing against Ed Sheeran. I mean, I respect him, but obviously I think my biggest problem with Ed Sheeran is maybe just the clones.
Well, the way I see it, right? And I'm not against Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran, brilliant. He's obviously, he can sing, he can play guitar, brilliant. He writes a good song, but now he's got like a team of writers, so I don't know how that kind of goes on.
Yeah, it's a bit different these days.
Yeah, but
not quite his first album.
Yeah, but the problem I have with Ed Sheeran is that he's doing like the singer-songwriter stuff that we all do.
Yep.
How many people do you see doing that every single gig, every single open mic, up and down the country? What made him stick out over anyone else?
Yeah.
Someone has seen him, he's got that kind of pop potential, and they've taken him, I guess, and they've taken him and put him into that situation where he is now like the forefront of open mic, singer-songwriter.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
But he's not bad, but how many people do you see doing that all the time?
I have the exact same problem, and it's, the thing is it's nothing against him. I'm sure he's a nice guy.
He seems like a nice guy, yeah.
And he's very talented, and he's very lucky to have got to where he is, and I'm not envious of that at all. I like you say, I only use him as an example because he, like you say, he is the main influence of all these kind of wave of young singer-songwriters who, and again, it's not me being bad towards anyone that does it. The whole kind of looping, rapping, kind of style, and I'm not against it because I've seen a lot of people do it and do it really well. Personally, you'll never see me rapping and you'll never see me looping. I've got nothing. I've seen lots of people doing looping and it's great. Personally, it's just not my thing. I don't know. I've never been interested in it. The amount of people that have said to me, "Oh, would you ever be interested in looping?" and it's like, no, I've just no interest in it. I don't know why. I
think it can be good when used sparingly. The amount of artists I've seen, they'll do like a song or two, loop it all up, and then the next song they'll spend another 10 minutes looping it all up, and they're all really good, but it's just not particularly interesting after the sixth song.
As cynical as it may sound, tell me if I do sound cynical for saying this, but
let the audience decide.
Well, I feel like with looping, it's one of those things where I've seen people play at gigs and they have technical difficulties, and it's just very bad to see because it kills their set. And as cynical as it may sound, but for me, I feel like I don't like to rely on electronics too much, because I feel like if you let electronics control what you do, it will just kill your momentum. Like I'm a bit more of a traditionalist in that sense, you know, like I like to just plug in and play, or even so, not even plug in and play acoustically without an amp, without relying on electronics. It's nice to have electronics, don't get me wrong, but I like it when an artist goes, okay, I'm going to do a set where it's completely stripped down with no, because some people have loops as a primary part of their song, and I think, but what are you going to do when you're playing on the street with no amp?
Yeah, fair enough, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, definitely.
But that's not to knock anyone, because I know lots of people that use loops and they're fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's never been my thing, and I don't think it suits my style anyway, so I'd never use it. You know, going back to Brighton venues.
Yeah.
We are in the go.
Being serenaded now.
Going back to the Brighton music venues. So I never went to the Pressure Point.
Yep.
But I did used to go to the it's gone out of my head now. There was the Pressure Point and the, what was the other one?
Free Butt, yeah.
I went to I'll tell you a funny story for the podcast about the Free Butt. I went and saw twice at the Free Butt a band called Kong. Yeah, do you remember Kong?
Kong? No, I don't. No.
Kong were Oceansize's side project. Okay. Do you know Oceansize?
I know of them. Again, it's one of those I haven't heard anything, but
great
I know
band.
of.
But I went to see Kong at the Free Butt, and the first time I saw them, my ears were ringing for a day after I went and saw them. They were very loud, but also this was after the Free Butt got reopened and they knocked the wall down and they had the pillar, and they did everything they could to
try and sustain themselves for a bit longer.
Yeah, so the sound was bouncing all over the place and really got into my ears.
Yeah,
and my ears were ringing so bad. Second time I saw Kong, interesting time. And I was talking to his name's gone out of my head, Andy, who used to run the Free Butt from Lout, no, not Lout, Love Thy Neighbour. Andy,
he's not the guy that used to have the hat, was he? No, someone else.
Sure. Andy, it'll come back to me.
Okay.
But yeah, I went and saw Kong the second time at the Free Butt. Funniest gig I've ever been. It's a gig that I will never forget, and it's such a shame they closed the Free Butt, because it was the venue that held the funniest gig I've ever been to. So they were a bit of a crazy band. You should definitely check out Kong. They wore masks, like see-through masks.
Right.
They used to wear all red, like red boiler suits, red t-shirts, red trousers. Weird band and they used to wear plastic clear masks. Now, do you remember that video by Primus? There was a music video by Primus where they looked like plastic models.
It rings a bell, but I can't quite remember.
They used to look like that, and so Kong were playing, and he left a cup on the top and at the front of the stage, and I noticed people started filling it with like different alcohol, like Jack Daniels, beer, whiskey, and he was drinking it during the set. And I noticed towards the end of their set, he was absolutely off his tits. And they were the drummer started doing a drum roll as an intro to the next song. Next thing I know, the lead singer, he's like kind of twitching his body. And I thought, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, out of his mask, he just started vomiting onto the floor. Not even on the stage, onto the crowd. And these people started moving back, and I was like, my jaw dropped, and I was like, watch it. I think I must have been in my early 20s at the time. It was like in 2008 or 2009. I was laughing so much, like, what is going on? He's like, oh my God, it was so funny.
Oh man.
It was because he had a plastic mask, but he'd made like a hole.
Oh, imagine if there was no hole.
He just kind of like sprayed out, and I was like, oh my god.
Do you ever get any of those comments? Oh man, I love your page. DM me and we can try and hook up.
Oh, I've had that many times.
Oh,
and
so
I never,
pathetic, isn't it?
I never understand if it's just like a generic thing or if they are sincere or.
I see it on so many different people's pages, and like, okay, well, if you're that interested, send us a DM.
Yeah.
And we'll go that way. Yeah, and whether it's people thinking they can actually promote you or not, or whether they're just trying to capitalise on the fact you've got a few likes for that particular post, I have no idea.
I never understand. It always looks a bit generic to me, which is why I find it difficult. I really appreciate comments from strangers on social media, but sometimes I think, are they being sincere, or is it just like, I don't know, a generic copy and paste kind of thing?
Yeah, I think most of the time it's generic copy and paste stuff. Not all the time.
Yeah.
There was a fight kicking off earlier on. That's why I was a bit on edge when there was all people around us.
Oh, I got you. I was say we've been intercepted. I don't know what's going on.
We like hanging out in this park a lot, especially in the summer. And we have a few beers. The amount of fighting that we see.
Always at the level.
The skate park. They've got like kids doing their drug running for them.
Oh, you should talk to my friend Rob, who I'm going to meet with.
I don't want any. I can get my own drugs. It's fine. Just saying that.
My friend Rob is a investigator for the police, and most of his regulars are from the level.
Really? Wow. Because I'd like to know what they know in a way, because we see it all the time. We're down here, you know, we see what happens, we see what's going on. It's fairly obvious to us. But then why isn't it obvious to like law enforcement?
Oh yeah. Oh no. My friend Rob, who's an investigator, is always like, oh yeah, you know, the level is like crime central. And he's like, you especially don't want to walk down here at midnight or something. It's like, oh god, no. Never on your own, dear God.